The execution pyre stood in the center of the Silvermoon Pack's ceremonial grounds, its wooden beams stacked high beneath the pale glow of the full moon. Arya's wrists burned where the silver chains cut into her skin, binding her to the stake as hundreds of wolves gathered in a silent circle around her fate. She could smell the fear rolling off her own body, sharp and acrid, mingling with the pine smoke that already curled upward from the torches held by the pack warriors. Her wolf whimpered inside her mind, too weak from the silver poisoning to offer any comfort or strength. "Arya Thornwood," Beta Marcus's voice rang out across the clearing, cold and formal. "You stand accused of betraying your mate bond, of conspiring against your alpha, and of bringing dishonor to the Silvermoon bloodline. How do you answer these charges?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream the truth, that she had done nothing, that the evidence planted in her chambers was a lie, that someone wanted her dead. But when she lifted her gaze to the raised platform where her mate stood, the words died on her lips. Alpha Damien Silvermoon watched her with eyes like frozen steel, his jaw set in a hard line. The man who had whispered promises of forever against her skin now looked at her as if she were nothing more than a traitor, deserving of ash and bone. "I'm innocent," Arya managed, her voice breaking. "Damien, please, you know me. You know I would never—" Silence. Damien's command cracked through the air like a whip. He descended the platform steps with predatory grace, each footfall deliberate as he approached the pyre. "You dare speak my name? You who plotted with our enemies, who sold pack secrets for silver and power?" Tears streamed down Arya's face. "I didn't, I swear on the moon goddess, I didn't do any of it. Someone set me up. Enough lies." Damien's hand shot out, gripping her chin roughly and forcing her to meet his gaze. This close, she could see the fury burning behind his eyes, but also something else, something that looked almost like pain. "I found the letters myself, Arya. In your own handwriting. Correspondence with the Bloodfang Pack detailing our patrol routes, our weaknesses." "Those aren't real," she sobbed. "Damien, I love you. I'm your mate. You were my mate." His voice dropped to a lethal whisper, audible only to her. "But the bond means nothing when trust is shattered. You made your choice when you betrayed us all." He released her chin with enough force that her head snapped back against the wooden stake. Pain exploded across the back of her skull, stars dancing in her vision. Damien turned to address the gathered pack, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Arya Thornwood has been found guilty of treason against the Silvermoon Pack. By ancient law, the punishment for such betrayal is death by fire, a cleansing flame to purge her dishonor from our lands." "No," Arya whimpered. "Please, no. Damien, don't do this." "Let it be known," Damien continued, speaking over her pleas, "that I, Alpha Damien Silvermoon, hereby reject Arya Thornwood as my mate and Luna. I sever our bond before the moon goddess and release her from the pack." The rejection hit like a physical blow. Arya screamed as the mate bond tore apart inside her chest, phantom claws shredding through her heart and soul. Her wolf howled in agony, thrashing against the silver chains that prevented any shift or escape. The pain was worse than fire, worse than death. It was the obliteration of everything she had believed her life would be. Through her tears, she saw Damien's expression remain impassive, untouched by her suffering. "Burn her," he ordered. Beta Marcus stepped forward with a torch, its flames dancing hungrily in the night air. Other warriors followed suit, surrounding the pyre with fire in their hands. The crowd pressed closer, eager to witness justice, or perhaps simply blood. "Any last words, traitor?" Marcus asked, his voice devoid of the warmth he'd once shown her. Arya's vision blurred, her body trembling violently from shock and silver poisoning. She could barely draw breath past the sobs that racked her frame. "I'm innocent," she whispered one final time. "May the moon goddess judge you all for what you do tonight." Marcus's lips curved into a cruel smile. "The goddess has already judged you, Omega. That's why you burn." He lowered his torch to the base of the pyre. The dry wood caught instantly, flames licking upward with terrifying speed. Within seconds, fire surrounded Arya on all sides, climbing higher with each passing moment. The heat was unbearable, searing her skin even before the flames could touch her. She screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror and pain. Smoke filled her lungs, choking her as the fire consumed the wooden structure. The silver chains prevented her wolf from surfacing, from offering any protection or healing. She was helpless, human, burning alive while her former pack watched. Through the wall of flames, she saw Damien turn away, his shoulders rigid as he walked back toward the pack house. He didn't look back. Not once. The fire roared louder, drowning out her screams. Arya's vision darkened at the edges, her consciousness fragmenting as her body began to fail. This was how she would die, alone, betrayed, and branded a traitor for crimes she hadn't committed. Then, impossibly, she heard it, a howl. Not from the Silvermoon wolves surrounding her execution, but from somewhere beyond, deep and commanding, resonating with a power that made the very ground tremble. It echoed through the forest, through the flames, through her failing heart. The pack warriors shifted nervously, their attention snapping toward the tree line. Even through the fire's roar, Arya heard the sudden silence that fell over the crowd, a hush of fear and recognition. Heavy footsteps approached, each one deliberate and unhurried despite the inferno. A massive silhouette appeared beyond the flames, backlit by moonlight. Then he stepped through the fire. Alpha King Theron Blackwood walked through the burning pyre as if the flames were nothing more than morning mist. His dark hair remained untouched by ash, his powerful frame moving with lethal grace as he strode directly into the heart of the blaze. His eyes, ancient and golden, holding the weight of centuries, locked onto Arya with an intensity that stole what little breath she had left. "What is the meaning of this?" Damien's voice cracked with shock and fury as he spun back around. "Your Majesty, this doesn't concern you." Silence. The single word from Theron carried enough power to drop every wolf present to their knees, all except Damien, who fought against the Alpha King's dominance with visible strain. "You dare burn an innocent under my rule." Theron reached Arya through the flames, his large hands gentle as they gripped the silver chains binding her. He snapped them as easily as twigs, the metal shrieking as it gave way. Arya collapsed forward into his arms, her body broken and burned, barely conscious. "She's guilty," Damien tried to argue, but Theron's growl silenced him instantly. "She carries no scent of deception," Theron said, his voice low and dangerous as he lifted Arya against his chest. "Only fear, pain, and betrayal. Your nose has failed you, young Alpha. Or perhaps your judgment has." He turned, carrying Arya back through the flames. They parted before him like a living thing yielding to its master. When he emerged on the other side, his clothes bore not a single scorch mark, his skin unmarred by the fire that should have consumed them both. The gathered Silvermoon wolves stared in stunned silence as their Alpha King, the most powerful werewolf in all the territories, held their discarded Omega as if she were something precious. "This wolf is now under my protection," Theron announced, his golden eyes sweeping across the crowd with clear warning. "Any who challenge my claim will answer to me personally." Arya's consciousness flickered, her burned fingers clutching weakly at Theron's shirt. She tried to speak, to ask why, but darkness rushed up to claim her. The last thing she heard before oblivion took her was Theron's voice, rough with barely contained fury. "Someone will pay for this travesty. I swear it on the old laws." Chapter 2. The King's Court. Arya woke to softness, a sensation so foreign after the agony of fire and silver that she initially believed herself dead. Perhaps the moon goddess had taken mercy on her soul, granting her passage to the eternal hunting grounds despite the dishonor of her execution. Then pain registered, sharp and all-consuming, radiating from every inch of her skin. She gasped, her body jerking involuntarily, and immediately strong hands pressed against her shoulders, holding her still. "Easy," a deep voice commanded, and Arya's eyes snapped open. Alpha King Theron Blackwood sat beside the enormous bed where she lay, his golden eyes studying her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Memories crashed back, the pyre, the flames, Damien's rejection, and impossibly, this man walking through fire itself to save her. "Where—" Her voice came out as a rasp, her throat raw from smoke and screaming. "My estate. The Blackwood Palace in the Northern Highlands." Theron lifted a glass of water to her lips, supporting her head with surprising gentleness. "Drink slowly. Your body is still healing." Arya obeyed, the cool liquid soothing her damaged throat. As she drank, she became aware of her surroundings. A massive chamber decorated in dark woods and deep blues, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a moonlit landscape of mountains and forests. Everything spoke of power and ancient bloodlines. Why? The question emerged before she could stop it. Why did you save me? Theron set the glass aside, his expression unreadable. Because you were innocent. Because burning an Omega for fabricated crimes is an abomination our kind swore to abandon centuries ago. His jaw tightened. And because the moment I caught your scent on the wind, my wolf wouldn't let me walk away. Arya's heart lurched. What do you mean? Instead of answering directly, Theron stood and moved to the window, his broad shoulders tense beneath his dark shirt. How much do you know about true mate bonds, Arya? I thought... She swallowed hard. I thought Damian was my true mate. The bond felt real. Forced bonds can feel real, especially when imposed by an alpha on a weaker wolf. Theron's voice carried an edge of anger. But a true mate bond, one blessed by the moon goddess herself, transcends pack politics and manipulation. It's rare. Perhaps 1 in 10,000 wolves ever experiences it. He turned back to face her, and Arya's breath stopped at the raw honesty in his ancient eyes. You are my true mate, Arya Thornwood. I've walked this earth for over 3 centuries, and I have never felt what I felt the moment your scent reached me through those flames. His hands clenched at his sides. Damian Silvermoon may have claimed you, may have forced a lesser bond upon you, but he was never truly yours, and you were never truly his. The revelation should have been impossible to process, yet something deep inside Arya's chest, in the hollow space where her bond with Damian had been brutally severed, suddenly flared to life. A warmth that had nothing to do with physical healing spread through her, and she felt it. The golden thread connecting her soul to the powerful Alpha King standing before her. I don't understand, she whispered. How could I not know? How could I feel bonded to Damian if he wasn't... Because you're an Omega, and he's an Alpha who wanted to control you. Theron's expression darkened. Forced bonds are illegal under my law, but they still happen in remote packs. An Alpha can impose his will on a weaker wolf, creating the illusion of destiny. But it's hollow, a pale shadow of what true mates share. He approached the bed again, kneeling beside it so their eyes were level. I won't force anything upon you, Arya. You've been through unimaginable trauma. But you need to know the truth. You belong with me. Not because I command it, but because the moon goddess herself wove our souls together long before either of us drew breath. Tears spilled down Arya's cheeks, not from pain this time, but from overwhelming emotion. He tried to kill me. My own mate tried to burn me alive. He was never your mate. Theron's thumb brushed away her tears with infinite care. But I am. And I swear to you on my bloodline, on my crown, and on the old laws, no one will ever harm you again. You are under my protection now. You are mine to defend, mine to shelter, mine to... He stopped himself, jaw working. Yours to what? Arya asked softly. Mine to court, if you'll allow it. His voice dropped to a near whisper. Mine to love should you find me worthy, mine to cherish for whatever time the goddess grants us. His golden eyes burned with intensity. But only if you choose it, Arya. I will not be another Alpha who steals your choice. The gentle knock on the door interrupted the charged moment. An elegant woman in healer's robes entered, bowing respectfully to Theron before approaching the bed. Your Majesty, I need to examine her injuries and change her bandages, the healer said. Theron nodded, standing. I'll return shortly. He paused at the door, looking back at Arya. Rest, heal. We have time to navigate whatever comes next. After he left, the healer worked efficiently, unwrapping bandages to reveal skin that should have been charred beyond recognition. Instead, Arya saw pink, healing flesh, still tender and marked, but miraculously whole. The Alpha King's blood accelerated your healing, the healer explained, catching Arya's shocked expression. He gave you quite a lot of it while you were unconscious. It's why you're alive at all. Those burns should have killed you 3 times over. He gave me his blood. Ancient Alpha blood is powerful medicine. His Majesty hasn't shared his blood with anyone in over a century. The healer's expression softened. You must be very important to him. Over the following days, Arya's strength returned under the healer's careful ministrations and the lingering effects of Theron's blood. The Alpha King visited daily, sometimes sitting in comfortable silence while she rested, other times sharing stories of the kingdom and the packs under his protection. He never pushed, never demanded, never expected anything beyond her acceptance of his protection. On the 5th day, Arya finally felt strong enough to leave the bed. Theron escorted her to a private balcony overlooking the Blackwood territory. Endless forests painted silver by moonlight, mountains rising in the distance like ancient sentinels. "It's beautiful," Arya breathed, the cool night air filling her healing lungs. "It's yours," Theron said simply. "All of this. If you accept the bond, you become my queen. The Pax will bow to you as they bow to me." Arya turned to face him, studying the powerful Alpha who had saved her from death itself. Despite his strength, despite his ancient power, he looked at her with something achingly vulnerable in his eyes. "I'm nobody," she whispered. "Just an Omega who was discarded and nearly murdered. Why would your court accept me?" Theron's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch reverent. "You're not nobody, Arya. You're the strongest wolf I've ever encountered. You survived betrayal, rejection, silver poisoning, and literal fire. You endured what would have broken warriors twice your size." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "As for my court, they'll accept you because you're my true mate, and because anyone who doesn't will answer to me." The mate bond hummed between them, golden and warm and real in a way her connection to Damien had never been. Arya could feel Theron's emotions now, his fierce protectiveness, his carefully controlled desire, and beneath it all, a loneliness that had stretched across centuries. "I'm afraid," she admitted, "afraid to trust this, afraid it'll be taken away like everything else." "Then let me prove it to you." Theron's forehead touched hers, their breaths mingling. "Let me show you what it means to be truly cherished. No rush, no demands. Just us, learning each other, building something real." Arya's hands came up to rest against his chest, feeling his heart beat strong and steady beneath her palms. The broken parts inside her whispered warnings, reminded her of pain and betrayal, but something deeper, something ancient and true, recognized this man as home. "Okay," she whispered. "Show me." Theron's smile transformed his entire face, centuries of loneliness cracking away to reveal genuine joy. He pulled her into his arms, careful of her still healing skin, and held her as if she were something infinitely precious. For the first time since the flames, Arya felt safe. Chapter 3. Awakening Power. The weeks that followed brought revelations Arya had never anticipated. Under Theron's patient guidance and the careful instruction of the royal court, she discovered that her weakness as an Omega had been another lie, a suppression technique Damien had employed to keep her controllable. "Your true nature was bound," explained Elder Mora, one of Theron's most trusted advisors, during a training session in the palace's private grounds. "Likely from the moment Damien forced his bond upon you, he couldn't risk you discovering your actual strength." Arya's hands trembled as she stared at them, still struggling to process everything. "But I've always been weak. Always been—" "Omega doesn't mean weak," Theron interrupted, approaching from where he'd been observing the lesson. "It means balanced. Omegas possess unique gifts, empathy, emotional influence, the ability to soothe even the most dominant alphas. In ancient times, they were revered as peacemakers and healers." His expression darkened. "Modern packs have twisted the designation into something lesser. It's a corruption I've been working to undo." He gestured for her to stand. "Show me your wolf. Let her surface without fear." Arya closed her eyes, reaching inward to the creature that had been cowed and chained for so long. Her wolf stirred, hesitant but curious. With Theron's encouraging presence washing over her through their bond, she let the shift take her. The transformation should have been painful. It always had been before. Instead, it felt like shedding a too tight skin, her body reforming with fluid grace. When she opened her eyes as a wolf, the world exploded into sharper focus, richer sense, deeper sounds. Gasps echoed around the training grounds. Arya turned, catching her reflection in the nearby fountain, and froze. Her wolf form was silver, not the common grey of typical pack wolves, but pure silver that seemed to glow in the moonlight. She was larger than she'd ever been before, more powerful, her muscles coiled with strength she hadn't known she possessed. "Goddess," Elder Mora breathed. "A moon-blessed Omega. I thought they were extinct." Theron knelt before Arya's wolf form, his golden eyes filled with pride and something deeper. "Your bloodline is ancient, Arya. Older than most packs can trace. The silver coat marks you as moon-blessed. Omegas born with direct connection to the goddess herself." He reached out, running his fingers through her fur. "Damien didn't just suppress your strength, he tried to erase your heritage." The implications crashed over Arya like a tidal wave. She shifted back to human form, Elder Mora quickly draping a robe over her shoulders. "Why?" Arya's voice shook. "Why would he do that?" "Control," Theron said flatly. "Moon-blessed Omegas can't be dominated like common wolves. They're too powerful, too connected to primal forces. For an alpha like Damien, insecure in his power, you would have been a threat." His jaw clenched. "So he broke you down, made you believe you were nothing. Easier to control a wolf who doesn't know her own strength." Rage flared hot in Arya's chest, not just at Damien, but at herself for believing his lies for so long. "I let him make me weak." "No." Theron's hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. "He systematically dismantled your sense of self from the moment he met you. That's not weakness, Arya. That's survival under sustained psychological warfare. But you're free of him now, free to reclaim everything he stole." Over the following weeks, Arya trained relentlessly. Elder Mora taught her to access her empathic abilities, to read the emotional currents in a room, to project calm or confidence when needed. The weapons master showed her how to fight, her smaller frame an advantage when combined with her newfound speed and strength, but it was Theron who taught her about power itself. "True strength isn't about domination," he explained during a late-night walk through the palace gardens. "It's about knowing exactly who you are and refusing to be diminished." He plucked a white rose from a nearby bush, offering it to her. "You've been diminished long enough." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Arya felt it constantly now, a golden thread connecting their souls, letting her sense Theron's emotions even when they were apart. His steady confidence became her anchor, while her gentle empathy softened his sometimes harsh edges. One evening, Theron invited her to the throne room for what he called kingdom business. Arya entered to find dozens of pack alphas kneeling before the dais, leaders from across the territories gathered for their monthly council. "Rise," Theron commanded, and they obeyed. His presence filled the massive chamber, undeniable and absolute. "I've called you here for an important announcement." He descended from the throne, offering his hand to Arya. She took it, letting him guide her up the steps to stand beside him. "This is Arya Thornwood, moon-blessed Omega, and my true mate," Theron announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "In 1 month's time, under the full moon, she will be crowned as your queen." Murmurs rippled through the gathered alphas, some curious, some skeptical, but none daring to voice open objection. Arya's hand tightened on Theron's, her heart racing. "You will show her the same respect you show me," Theron continued, his tone brooking no argument. "Any pack that refuses to acknowledge her authority will lose their charter and be absorbed into the royal territory. Is this understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Your Majesty," echoed through the chamber. One alpha stepped forward, an older man with grey streaking his dark hair. "Your Majesty, no disrespect intended, but the young lady was cast out of her pack, branded a traitor. Some might question." "Then let me be clear." Theron's eyes flashed gold, his alpha presence expanding until every wolf in the room felt the weight of it. Arya Thornwood was the victim of a conspiracy and a forced bond. The so-called evidence against her was fabricated. I have investigators gathering proof as we speak. His voice dropped to something dangerous. "And when that proof is compiled, Alpha Damien Silvermoon will answer for his crimes, publicly." The grey-haired alpha bowed deeply. "Understood, Your Majesty. We look forward to welcoming our new queen." After the council dismissed, Arya sagged against Theron in their private chambers, adrenaline draining away. That was terrifying. "You were perfect," Theron assured her, pulling her into his arms. "Regal and composed. Everything a queen should be." "I don't feel like a queen." Arya buried her face against his chest, breathing in his cedar and smoke scent. "I feel like I'm playing pretend. Then we'll pretend together until it becomes real." His lips brushed her temple. "You were always meant for this, Arya. Perhaps that's why Damien feared you so much." That night, lying in Theron's arms while moonlight streamed through the windows, Arya finally allowed herself to believe it. She was stronger than she'd known, braver than she'd believed, and she had found her true mate, a king who saw her as an equal rather than a possession. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. Damien wouldn't let her go this easily. Men like him never did. Chapter 4. Justice and Destiny. The summons arrived 2 weeks before Arya's coronation. A formal letter bearing the Silvermoon Pact seal, delivered by a nervous messenger to the palace gates. Theron read it aloud, his expression darkening with each word. Alpha Damien Silvermoon requests an audience with the Alpha King regarding the former Omega, Arya Thornwood. He claims new evidence has emerged proving her guilt and demands her return to face justice under Pact law. Arya's blood ran cold. He's coming here? He has the legal right to request audience, though not to demand anything. Theron crumpled the letter in his fist. But this works in our favor. My investigators have finished their work. It's time Damien answered for what he did. 3 days later, Alpha Damien Silvermoon arrived at Blackwood Palace with an entourage of warriors. Arya watched from a high window as they dismounted in the courtyard, her former mate's familiar form sending ice through her veins despite the distance. "You don't have to be there," Theron said softly, appearing behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "I can handle this alone." "No." Arya straightened her shoulders, drawing strength from their bond. "I need to face him, need to hear whatever lies he's prepared." She turned in Theron's embrace. "And I need him to see that I survived, that I'm stronger than he ever wanted me to be." Pride flashed in Theron's golden eyes. "Then we face him together." The throne room had been arranged for formal judgment. Theron seated on the dais with Arya standing at his right hand. Elder Mora and the royal council flanked them, while guards lined the walls. When Damien entered with his beta and warriors, his steps faltered at the sight of Arya alive and whole. "Your Majesty," Damien said, recovering quickly and bowing with calculated respect. "Thank you for granting this audience. State your business, Alpha Silvermoon." Theron's voice was ice and iron. Damien's eyes kept flickering to Arya, something dark moving behind them. "I've come to collect what's mine. The Omega Arya Thornwood was bonded to me, marked as my mate. Pact law states—" "You rejected that bond," Arya interrupted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Before witnesses. Before your entire pack. You severed it yourself before trying to murder me." "Murder?" Damien's expression twisted with false confusion. "My lady, you were found guilty of treason. Execution was the lawful punishment. That you survived is proof of the moon goddess's intervention," Theron cut in, "which brings us to the real matter at hand." He gestured, and one of his investigators stepped forward with a thick folder. "Tell me, Alpha Silvermoon, do you recognize these documents?" The investigator began laying papers across a table. Letters, financial records, witness testimonies. Damien's face paled as he realized what he was seeing. "These are the original letters supposedly written by Arya," the investigator explained. "The ones you claimed proved her treason. Except our analysis shows they were forgeries, created using samples of her handwriting stolen from personal correspondence. The ink, the paper, even the writing style. All manufactured." That's not possible," Damien stammered. "I found those letters myself." "You planted them yourself," Theron corrected, his voice lethal. "Or rather, you had your beta plant them. Beta Marcus, who has already confessed in exchange for clemency." Marcus stepped forward from where he'd been waiting with the guards, his head bowed in shame. "It's true, Your Majesty. Alpha Damien ordered me to forge the evidence. He wanted an excuse to be rid of her, but needed it to look justified. Traitor, Damien snarled at his beta. I'll have your head for this. You'll have nothing, Theron said, rising from his throne. Because you are stripped of your position, effective immediately. The Silvermoon Pack is now under royal administration until a new Alpha can be appointed. You can't do this, Damien's control finally snapped, his eyes flashing wolf-gold. She's mine, I claimed her first. You forced a bond on a moon-blessed Omega, which is illegal under ancient law. Theron descended the dais, his power radiating outward until even Damien's warriors dropped to their knees. You fabricated evidence to justify attempted murder. You violated every oath an Alpha swears. He stopped directly in front of Damien. And worst of all, you tried to burn your goddess-given mate alive. That crime alone warrants execution. Arya's breath caught. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected Theron to call for Damien's death. Part of her wanted it, wanted justice for the pain and betrayal. But another part... Wait, she said, moving to stand beside Theron. Every eye turned to her. Damien stared with a mixture of hatred and desperate hope. He deserves death, Arya said clearly. By law and by justice. But I won't let his crimes define me anymore. She met Damien's gaze steadily. I choose mercy. Not for you, but for myself. Because I refuse to carry the weight of your death alongside everything else you've done to me. Arya, Damien started, something like remorse flickering across his face. I'm not finished. Her voice hardened. You'll be stripped of your position and your territory. You'll be cast out as a lone wolf, forbidden from joining any pack, and you'll live with the knowledge that you destroyed everything over your own insecurity and pride. She stepped closer. I was yours, truly yours, and you threw me away. Silence filled the throne room. Damien's shoulders sagged, defeat written across his features. The judgment stands, Theron declared, but the Omega, now queen-to-be, has spoken for mercy. You're cast out, Damien Silvermoon. If you're found in any pack territory, the mercy ends. He nodded to the guards. Remove him. As Damien was escorted out, Arya felt the last chains of her past fall away. She had faced her abuser and chosen her own path forward. Not revenge, but freedom. Theron's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Are you all right? I am. And surprisingly, she meant it. I'm ready for whatever comes next. The coronation ceremony took place under the full moon, in the ancient ceremonial grounds where werewolf queens had been crowned for millennia. Thousands of wolves from every pack gathered to witness, the air electric with significance. Arya wore a gown of silver and midnight blue, her hair adorned with a crown of moonflowers and diamonds. As she walked down the ceremonial path toward where Theron waited, she felt the weight of every eye upon her, judging, measuring, wondering if an Omega could truly be their queen. The ritual was ancient, conducted by the eldest pack priestess in words that predated modern speech. Arya knelt before the sacred stone, and Theron placed the queen's crown upon her head, not a symbol of his power over her, but a recognition of her power beside him. By the authority granted to me by the moon goddess and the old laws, Theron announced, his voice carrying across the gathered thousands, I present Queen Arya Blackwood, moon-blessed Omega, my true mate and rightful ruler of all pack territories. Arya rose, and as she did, something extraordinary happened. The full moon above them seemed to pulse with silver light, beams of luminescence cascading down to bathe her in radiance. The crowd gasped as Arya's silver wolf pushed to the surface, her eyes glowing with ancient power. The goddess herself had marked her approval. When the light faded, Arya stood transformed, not physically, but in the way she carried herself. No longer the broken Omega who'd nearly burned, no longer the frightened girl seeking approval. She was queen now, powerful and whole, standing beside her true mate as an equal. The crowd erupted in howls of acceptance, thousands of wolves acknowledging their new queen. Later, in the privacy of their chambers, Theron pulled Arya into his arms. How does it feel? He murmured against her hair. Like coming home, Arya answered honestly. Like every terrible thing I endured was leading me here, to you, to this. She pulled back to look up at him. I don't regret it anymore. The pain, the betrayal, it all brought me to where I was meant to be. Theron's kiss was gentle and reverent, full of promise and patience. "We have forever now," he whispered. "Forever to build our kingdom, to love each other, to write our own story." "Then let's make it a good one," Arya replied, her smile bright and unburdened. Outside their window, the moon shone silver over Blackwood territory, blessing the true mates who had found each other through fire and fate. And in the distance, in every pack across the territories, wolves howled their allegiance to the queen who had risen from ash to claim her crown. The story of Arya and Theron would be told for generations, a tale of betrayal overcome, of true mates destined, and of an Omega who became a queen not through marriage, but through her own unbreakable strength.